we refer to as gate-to-gate shear. Rick, can you give me some numbers across this? Okay, I think we've got a tornado on the ground here. Yeah. Rick, let me see reflectivity here briefly. I think we may have a tornado on the ground right now heading towards Salem. Salem, please listen to me. Listen to me. Get in your tornado safe spot. Don't play around with this one. Do not take the risk. The radar is indicating that at least this thing has very strong rotation. We've seen now a history as it went through Hardinsburg, Indiana, that there was at least a serious lowering. And as we look at the correlation coefficient, this is very, very arguably a tornado that is doing damage right now west-southwest of Salem. I would put this at 75% probability that we have a tornado on the ground, or at least touchdown. It does appear right now we're seeing the debris spreading out just a little bit. That can be what we call debris fallout, and it means that maybe a brief tornado occurred. But Rick, if you're in Salem, you got to take this seriously. Fortunately, that gate to gate seems like it may have come down just a touch. I think we just saw a touchdown 4 miles west-southwest of Salem.
I 100% agree with you. I mean, and that's just, what unfolded is what we were speaking about. These quick touchdowns can occur. Just back there, you see the scan where those greens and the reds basically banked up against each other. I'm going to switch over to the correlation coefficient, aka the debris tracker, and what you do see is that blue hole indicating that things have been picked up, lofted into the air, and in the last scan, what you notice is that debris potentially falling out of the storm.
Yes.
And as it approaches Salem, I know we're saying tornado warning, you need to be in your safe place, and there's probably some debris off in the distance being lofted up in the air, and the storm system still has the same rotation, so I would just expect the rotation actually come down, so I would expect this to be something that we'll keep an eye on here with the same cycle repeating itself over and over again.
And Rick, this is what it looked like as it went through the Hardinsburg area. Now, is this a tornado touchdown? Rick made a very valid point that we need to be very clear on. This is at least a wall cloud. A wall cloud is the area where a tornado would form from. The tree line doesn't allow us to fully see whether this was a touchdown. I think based on what we're seeing on radar, I believe we had a tornado touchdown right along 56, Indiana 56, about 4 miles west-southwest of Salem. But you can see on this video sent to me from Bradley Mills, you know, you can see the cars out on the road there. We know this is an area that is traveled, and I'm very concerned right now for Salem as this thing moves in towards the Salem area with a tornado warning. So the tornado warning for Salem is until 8:45. So for us, fortunately, we don't have the NCAA tournament on right now because doing a tornado warning during the NCAA tournament would not be fun for us.
No.
And I can tell you what my Twitter feed would look like, and it's not PG. But we need to be watching these things.
Yeah.
You know, honestly, I think Rick, you and I have decided in our lives that we're going to cover storms. We're going to take whatever comes with that. We're going to make sure that we protect the lives of the public and the people in our area. And that's what we're going to do. So if you're in Salem right now, you need to use some caution. Rick, I do see that you're getting some information. What do you know that we're finding from our area right now?
So an EMS station in Salem reporting separate areas of rotation. They said none of those are on the ground from their perspective. We cannot speak for everyone based on this report. So this just came in. So Travis, thanks for handing this off. No reports of injuries or damage at this point. But again, that's just from the EMS station in Salem. So
okay, and it wasn't in Salem yet.
It wasn't there yet. That was just past them. So we could potentially still have that same area of rotation do some damage 4 miles southwest of it.
And Rick, let's go back and look at what this looked like in the area that we were extremely concerned about. I'm going to take you over to 3D and give you an opportunity here to just show what we saw on radar. And this escalated, just like you and I talked about. It could happen like that. It's a real good reminder.
It happened like a light switch or the snap of fingers. And that's why in this sort of scenario, you just have to plan ahead. What you don't want to do is be caught off guard. So what Mark was referring to, we call these couplets, or areas of rotation, and when you have these greens and the reds, I mean, just like this, crashing up against each other, it shows us the winds are twisting very rapidly over a short distance, and this was when we sort of sound the severe weather alarm, potentially tornado on the ground, because of that blue hole showing up. That would indicate debris has been picked up by the tornado and potentially lofted up in the air, and that means the debris is all sorts of different sizes, whether it's 2x4s or some sheet metal, some leaves, some tree branches, just doesn't matter what it is, but it has been picked up, and it is now, as we track it north and east, appears to be falling out of the storm. The rotation not quite as pronounced or strong as it once was, just not next to each other. It seems to be spread out a little more around the Salem area, but at any given moment, it could tighten up, and it does appear as though we have debris, and it's now approaching Salem. Mark, this is a dangerous situation. If we indeed have that debris signature approaching Salem, this could hit an area that is much more populated if indeed we have that tornado on the ground. But looking at 3D, the reflectivity doesn't really match up with what we're seeing.
It may have peaked. I think this storm may have peaked. I think that its intensity peaked just before it went into Salem. That's my hope. By the way, Washington County sheriffs did report rotation on the ground northwest of Beck's Mill Road. As Rick noted, the EMS station in Salem reporting areas of rotation, but none of those on the ground. But Washington County Sheriff did report rotation on the ground northwest of Beck's Mill Road. You know, I will tell you, what we try to do when we analyze severe weather is we try to give you expert analysis while you're watching. Rick will tell you the same thing. My team really prides ourselves on being radar experts. We really pride ourselves on not waiting for warnings, not waiting for things to happen, not waiting for the Storms Prediction Center, never waiting. We pride ourselves on being able to analyze in the now and what's occurring. And that's what we're doing right now, is trying to analyze what we are seeing. As far as the body of this supercell, it's not as intense as it was. Our rotation still exists. Right now, it's moved past Salem. So in Salem right now, I don't think you come out of your safe spot. Give me 4 minutes. I would ask from you till 8:24 before you come out. Let's make sure the storm's by. But if you're now in Canton, which is along Indiana 5-6, you need to be careful still. Yes, I think we're seeing a slight downward trend on this a little bit. But that said, we saw, Rick, it come up in intensity so quickly. This is one of those storms. It's not a spring supercell with the monstrous size, but it is riding right along what is a quasi-warm front. We know that these impart rotations, and this storm has been the game. It really has locked itself into that area.
And it's the only storm that's been severe and tornado-warned the entire time, and that's because it's on the southern edge where we have no rain disrupting the inflow, so it has all that fuel, or at least what little fuel we have out there to feed on. And that's the thing on a day like this. It's not like we have absurd amounts of energy. We don't have really humid air with dew point 60 or better.
And we talked about this
They're
today.
in the 50s. And the other part about this is that we have wind energy that is supportive of severe, but it's also not at the higher echelon either. I mean,
it isn't, but it changes direction with height, and that's key here.
That is the key, and that's kind of what I was getting to. Anytime we have directional shear, we have two types of shear. Speed shear, where you go from the surface up top, an increase of wind speed with height. But directional shear, the more dangerous kind, is the spinning, and it's crazy to see how much that can overcome the lack of instability and still have a supercell maintaining the strength over such a long distance.
And if you guys could, if we could two-box here to the, I don't know if our knobs camera anymore is seeing that thunderstorm, because we had a real good visual on it. Okay, so we don't have a visual on it from our knobs cam right now, and we are traveling a little bit further north, so it would be out of view. But you know, if you notice here, the lightning is even come down on this thing. It's clear. This storm is at least at minimum weakened just a little bit. Is it done? I don't think that's fair to say. But I would be really curious, if anybody's in Salem, by the way, let me know when that came through, if you saw any debris fall out, if you saw anything fall from the sky, even if it's just leaves or something like that, because Rick, it did appear that that correlation coefficient hole went through Salem. It may have just been fallout. In fact, I would argue it was. But I think we saw a brief touchdown. You know, Rick and I do analysis. The Weather Service is going to get out there afterwards and do survey. We won't know for sure whether a tornado touched down or not until we get the survey team out there. But I would just tell you that from my expert analysis, I think one touchdown. I think one touchdown 4 miles west-southwest to Salem.
Yeah, I'd be very shocked if we didn't see that. What I have on you is,
by the way,
the split. This storm system, it just again is starting to intensify a little bit. Again, north of Salem, this is just to the west of Little York. But in the past couple scans, On the left-hand side of your TV screen, that's the reflectivity, which you classically see. And the northern edge of the storm, which you notice is a little hail core starting to pop yet again. So this is another situation where it's like the ocean. You don't turn your back on the ocean.
Right.
You don't turn your back on these sort of storms, which can drop a tornado very quickly and just all of a sudden. So yes, we still have a severe thunderstorm warning. Tornado tagged on there.
Right. This severe thunderstorm warning with tornado possible is in effect, number one. And number two, that one, by the way, is until 8:45. And we also have the tornado warning that's in effect for Washington County until 8:45. So we have another 20 minutes on the pair of warnings out there. I think it's worth at least doing a trip here because we need to remind ourselves that the air has not been touched in Louisville. And I think this is an important thing to note. These are still supercells lining up out to the west. When we were on TV, what I told you is, I thought we would get warnings on this. The reason I thought we would get warnings is because we have directional wind shear. And this is a supercell right now in Du Bois County, and this is a supercell right now also that is near Santa Claus, Indiana. And the reason you know this, it looks small. But you can see there is a tail on the back of this thing. And there we go, as Rick does a scope into the storm near Birdseye. We have rotation. I want to be clear. Don't think we're done. I think we need to be concerned in the rest of our area. And let's scope the southern storm here. We also see rotation within that storm that is near the Tennyson area. So from a perspective here, Santa Claus, Indiana, generally in this area right here. So we have more to go through. This is not show over. We are likely going to get at minimum some more severe thunderstorm warnings. And let's look at the wide perspective. This all has to move across our area. Remember one thing, if you hear me, it's that there is winds changing direction as you go upward in height. What that does, that's going to impart rotation of storms. And even if we're generally void of lightning, we can still get rotation. We can see some of these storms here again from the knobs. I'm looking out of the corner. The guys in our control booth are wizards, by the way. They have on all of the monitors around the studio here different images. And if you see me sometimes look off camera, they're allowing me to see what we've got elsewhere. But let's go over to the knobs cam, guys, if you could, behind me. Okay, and what they're trying to do right now is get a good solid focus on it. With it being late at night, it's obviously a challenge. But I think what it's going to at least show you is you'll see how we get the lightning strikes out of the core of the storm. And again, I'll reference here, this is the top of the storm that we call the anvil. The core of the storm sits right in here. And in focus, out of focus, what you're going to see regardless is you will see the lightning pops are not as frequent as when we talked earlier. From the perspective, what does that mean? That means the air's not rising as fast. It means the updraft's not as strong, and it means the storm's a little bit weaker. There you go. You could see some of those lightning strikes. Last time when I showed you this, we were getting lightning strikes about every 10 seconds or so, and now those lightning strikes are a little bit more infrequent. What we're going to do is stay with this until the tornado warning expires. And I think that is simply, you know, if you're in Gibson right now, I think that when it comes down to some of this stuff, when I first started in this business, one of the things I saw is that a lot of times people would cover the main city and they wouldn't cover the smaller towns. And I remember that people would be like, you know, why aren't we as important? And since I've been chief meteorologist at WDRB, one of the things I've really tried to do is make sure that you know, it doesn't matter which county you're in. If you're the most populated or least populated, you matter to us. And we're going to walk you through these storms together. That's the way we do this. We get through these storms together. So as far as speaking to this storm, hail core has come up a little bit here. That's going to be about 11 miles west-northwest of Little York. You will notice the rotation has reorganized. Rick, I'd like to rock back 3 frames and then come further forward. I just want to assess the change in the storm. So at this point, it looked like the rotation had buried itself in, and then watch as we advance the next 3 scans. There you go. That hook is becoming a little bit more defined. So what this storm is saying to us is, I'm not done. If you're in Little York right now, get in your safe spot. Take your tornado safety precautions. I like to use this when I go talk at schools, the word duck, because I think that it's kind of something that's easy to remember. What do I do if a tornado's coming? I duck. Downstairs, underneath something, center part of the house, and let's keep away from windows. This storm has, if nothing else, a history of producing a low-hanging wall cloud. In my professional opinion, I think it did drop a tornado. We're watching now in Little York as it's approaching. The area of rotation is just to the north of Indiana 5-6. Rick, the rotation there, it doesn't look as intense as it once did. We say green means go, but you know, Rick, we have seen green at times. We've seen blue at times. The storm's sitting along the warm front. I don't think it's done yet.
I don't think it's done, and the Weather Service has the right idea. I mean, they are continuing that warning. They're extending it now into Crothersville. It also includes Paris Crossing, Lovett, and this is a large warning. Goes all the way to North Vernon. So into Jennings County, they're basically preparing you and saying we have a strong storm moving your direction and be on guard for multiple threats. This isn't going to be a situation where we just have possibly a tornado. There's been instances where the hail signature has now come up, and what you're looking at is just the rotation. It seems to be more diffuse. More diffuse, not as tight as it once was, but nonetheless, we're looking at gates around 55 knots or so, so that would be severe, some 60-mile-per-hour winds. And like we mentioned, that can do damage, that can take down some tree limbs. So you may even have some power outages in a couple instances here or there. The storm system is just one of those ones that will not go away. It has kept its strength, and that's why the Weather Service has again decided to continue its warning. There is no reason to think this would be disrupted because there's no rain on the south side. And what you now see around Madisonville is a line of rain and storms, and we still have to get through those. So this is basically two spokes of energy. One we're dealing with now, the next one around Madisonville, Evansville, that one will pivot through later on this evening. Between now and midnight, that is the window of time when severe weather will be possible. And that's why we're continuing. It's at night. This is the situation. Listen, we had the report, we had the video. So going outside and looking at it now that the sun is down, it's a waste of your time.
And I just wanted to show you that the severe thunderstorm warning that's in effect for Jackson and Jennings County is for 1-inch size hail, which is a concern, and it still lists tornado possible, which I think is very, very important here to note. At minimum, you're going to get 60-mile-an-hour winds, but like we've been saying, this thing could produce a tornado at any time. Rick, our news department has been kind of handing us some of the reports that are coming in, and you've been able to digest what's going on out there. What are we seeing out there from our viewers, from the counties in terms of damage?
Right, and I just want to tell everyone first, your safety is our priority by far, so please do not go out if you are in the lead warning of this, but someone obviously went out after the fact, and they were in Salem. So along Orchard Road, just to the west of Salem, they report of trees down and also a power line down, something we just mentioned, near West Market Street in Salem. No injuries, thank goodness, but now we have actual confirmation lining up that there has been some damage to some trees and some power lines, power outages. No injuries. We suspect a tornado, and I agree with you 100%.
I think we saw a tornado that was west-southwest of Salem. I think we'll probably find a short-track tornado of maybe 5-6 miles, but I think a tornado touchdown there. That storm, you know, and we come back to the now, and I think that it's important to note that this storm has a history of at minimum, producing damage. And I think that that's where we start at minimum. We know that we have trees down off Orchard Road, just to the west of Salem. We have a report of a power line down on West Market Street in Salem. We know that this storm has a history of nothing less producing damage. We also got reports from the Washington County Sheriff of rotation on the ground northwest of Becks Mill Road earlier. Rick, that was the road that we were calling out. And now we go towards the future, and we look towards Little York. I want to take you briefly back. This was sent to me by Bradley Mills. I suspect that this is probably going to be a video that gets shared and goes viral online. This was out of Hardinsburg, Indiana. Now, the question is that a tornado? The tree line is the interface that makes it very difficult to say for sure. If nothing else, we're talking about a low-hanging wall cloud. In fact, I would argue that what you're seeing there is a low-hanging wall cloud, but it's very difficult to say where that ends, and then is there a tornado kind of hanging below that, touching the ground. But this storm has a history of causing problems across our area, and we have video with now from Washington County Sheriff of damage. So this is a serious situation for us. Beyond that, we have storms near Madisonville. We have other storms that we're watching. Any one of these, the one near Hall, if it decides to come up in intensity, could get to the severe level. Watching one near Carter as well. And Rick, let's do a scope and let's move through some of these storms so we can get beyond just the tornado warning and get a sense of what's going on.
And like Mark mentioned, these are all mini supercells, which is why any one poses a threat. It could quickly spin up, and they're actually rotating aloft the mesocyclone. That's what we pick up on. But sometimes that can stretch and get pulled down to the surface. And in this sort of event, this wouldn't be a very violent, long-track tornado. That is not the scenario that we are trying to paint. It would be a brief, weak tornado if you happen to see one. But it doesn't matter if it's weak, if it's strong, if it's violent. We've probably already seen a tornado drop down, damage kind of confirming and matching up with the area of rotation that we once saw in Salem, just to the southwest of that. And now that we're seeing the storm track north and east, there's other storms out there that we want to keep an eye on. So there is the tornado-warned storm that has a history of doing some damage. Again, the rotation, Mark turns this on, and I'm trying to look very carefully. Think of this scope like an X-ray. Let's say you broke your leg, right? And you wanted to look at it. So this is an X-ray inside the storm that we can use to analyze what's going on aside from rainfall. And this turns on the wind. Clearly, we have unidirectional wind or diffuse rotation inside the storm. We don't have that tight couplet, which once showed up several scans ago back to the south and to the west. But it's still a strong storm. Tornado warning until 8:45, which means we still have at least another 10 minutes to go. The storm currently, looking at reflectivity, has that basic body and the hook on that bottom. Clearly, we have an area kind of wrapping around, and this could, again, occlude the RFD, wrap it up.
By the way, we do have a new tornado warning that was just issued here, so I want to make sure that you have that.
They've extended it? Okay, so give them the latest.
Jackson County, Indiana, now under a tornado warning. Stay over there so you can continue that analysis. But I just wanted to get you updated on this. National Weather Service, Indy, just issued a tornado warning. This one goes until 9 o'clock. Remember, we're going to stay with the storms until they weaken. Until 9 o'clock, we have a tornado warning here. National Weather Service is going radar indicated hail up to 1 inch. Tornado located 10 miles southeast of Brownstown or 14 miles to the south of Seymour. Rick, this storm moving northeast at 3.5 miles an hour. So based on that, I'm going to give you a track on that area that we would be most concerned on.
Okay, and there is a difference, by the way, between radar indicated and observed. If we had observed, it would be a purple polygon around the storm, but it is red radar indicated, which is still problematic, but not as troubling as if we had an observed tornado on the ground doing damage and currently still doing so. This is one that's kind of skipped its way across our viewing area, and clearly it's not done yet. It continues to cruise off to the north and east. So Crothersville, if you're listening, safe place. Get there now. It'll be there in about 12 to 15 minutes. Uniontown 17 to 20, and in Paris Crossing, if it maintains this strength and intensity, in about a half hour. Here's your supercell thunderstorm. Again, rotation is not as pronounced as it once was, a bit more on the diffuse side, but it's still something that can produce some wind gusts 60 miles an hour, if not better. So that's right along 256 in Indiana. This will slide north and east at 35 miles an hour. And again, we still have this back edge where there is a little bit of a hook. Decent amount of lightning. Hail core has dropped. So that is a sign that potentially we're not seeing as much hail contamination inside the storm. But Grassy Fork, Crothersville, through Uniontown, crossing over 65.
65.
You know 65, there's going to be traffic on there. So heads up, if you know anyone traveling between Uniontown, Crothersville, and Jennings, in the next 20 minutes to half hour or so, there is a storm moving in your direction, which has a tornado tag with it, a tornado possible, and tornado warnings all the way up through Uniontown into, let's say, Chestnut Ridge, Retreat. That's right along 31.
Yes.
So yeah, once this crosses over 65, I mean, it's kind of concerning to see this strong of a storm moving toward a road that we know so many people use to travel. So again, between Crothersville, Uniontown, Jennings, watch the storm. It still has It still has some gusty winds. Again, the rotation not as strong as it once was, and thankfully the hail core has briefly gone away. But like we've been saying, these storms can uptick pretty quickly in the blink of an eye. So do not let your guard down just yet. We still have this tornado warning now until 9 o'clock.
Until 9 o'clock, and we're going to stay with the tornado warning. I just wanted to touch on 65. This is going to cross over the rotation very close to Crothersville. You know, I will tell you, anytime we have any active that is near Henryville, I always want to just tell my friends in Henryville and Borden and Pekin what to expect. You know, I just have such a connection after everything that went on in 2012. But I just want you guys to know this is north of you. We're going to watch the storms that are west, but I just want to speak to my friends out there again that I know what they went through in 2012. I just want you to know that this is going to stay north of you. We need to be really concerned, though, about 65 near Crothersville. As far as our rotation is concerned, we have watched that area of rotation. So what we see, the area of concern here is right along the Washington and Jackson County line. It is approaching 65 and it will cross over within the next 7 minutes. If you have any friends that are thinking about going north out of Scottsburg or south out of Seymour, say, hey, bad idea, bro. Do not be driving on the highway. There's potential rotation. You're under a tornado warning. Let's not do that. Now, beyond that, if you're in Crothersville, take your tornado safety precautions. I need you downstairs, underneath something. Let's get you into the center part of your house, and I need you to keep away from windows. Beyond that, we go back to the west, and we have what we refer to as these mini supercells. They have some minor areas of rotation. What they don't have working for them is the quasi-warm front that sits and drapes across the northern part of our area. That said, we need to be aware and we need to watch out for the potential for some severe weather as we move through the overnight hours. And this does include Louisville. This is going to be near Metro, somewhere close to the 10 p.m. timeline. You know, one of the things I find intriguing about this whole thing, further north, lower dew points, temperatures aren't as warm, more lightning. Fuel isn't as intense there, but we have more lightning, which means these storms are succeeding despite, which is impressive here. Part of this is occurring because we have the warm front in this area. So right near I-65, I will tell you, Rick, if we could, I'd like to look at analysts and see if we've got any debris because we're about to cross a major interstate. And I think this is something important to see. So as we just assess what we've got here on reflectivity number 1, Crothersville, you're dealing with the rain. There may be a small hail core here with some pea-sized hail, about 6 miles to the west of Crothersville, and then about 7 miles to the west-southwest of Crothersville. The rotation is going to be in this area. One of the things I want you to note is the storm has a little bit of what we call rain-cooled air ahead of it. And so what this may be doing is choking off this thunderstorm. That rain that is obscuring the updraft to this normally will mean it's a precursor to normally a weakening trend in the storm. We're still watching it very closely. Now let's look at rotation within the thunderstorm. That area of rotation, and may actually be 2 areas of rotation, but I will say, to me, it looks more of a concern that this may actually be out ahead of the area where I would expect if a tornado was to occur. So this may be outflow air that is now starting to gust out ahead of this storm. Lastly, what I would like to do is see if we have anything in there that would be a hole, like one of these blue spots right where that dot is where the area of rotation is. We don't see that. So my opinion right now is it doesn't look like this storm is signaling for sure that it has a tornado. Could it produce one? It's possible. But Rick, I think for this storm, for me, the most important thing I see right now is this area that's out ahead. And it may even be arguably what was the old area of rotation occluding out. Either way, I think we have a level of disorganization here right now that didn't occur and didn't exist maybe about an hour ago. I do want to take you out to the wide perspective. I do want to show you the whole line, and I do want to speak to the whole area. So there is still extensive lightning on the line that is west of Louisville. And this is on a storm right now. There's 2. This one is a rotating storm in the southern part of Orange County. It has got excessive lightning on it, and we have another storm that's now coming into Du Bois County. This one has extensive lightning on it. As far as rotation, remember one of the things I told you when we assess, always remember where the radar is. So is this some rotation? It's subtle. It is about 6 miles to the northeast of Birdseye. I'd like to do the same exercise on the storm that's near Carter right now. Are we seeing rotation? Now remember, radar is now behind me. So we would look for the red and green to be north versus south. Is there some? Maybe a little. But it's minor as things stand. As we put this into motion, analyze from a wide perspective, storms are going to be near Louisville probably between 9 and around 10 o'clock. And so we still need to be continuing to watch as these approach the Louisville Metro here over the next hour to hour and a half. Tornado warning remains in effect until 9 p.m. for Jackson County. Rick, I like the trends that I'm seeing right now. I don't think that we let our guard down. I think if you're in Crothersville, you've got to be in your tornado-safe location. And I think that that area just west of Crothersville, I don't think it's really completely finished the story yet. I think we're just in a little bit of a fuzzy area right now.
And it's fuzzy because we have some rain now, which has disrupted the inflow, and it has gone on the southern side. So yes, we still have a concerning storm, but thankfully there's some rain now, which would kind of choke it off. And if it can do so, then hopefully it will take that tornado threat away briefly. But like Mark was just showing you, this is not the only supercell we have in town. There are multiple little tiny supercells that could behave just like this one at any given point in time. And the areas that would probably do that now would be south of I-64. And a quick note, as you know, Mark, we don't have the most favorable wind energy here yet. I mean, it's now just coming in. So up until midnight, that's when the wind energy starts to come up, ramps up, and kind of peaks. And after midnight is when it falls. So this is something we're going to have to watch carefully. Thankfully, the sun is now down.
Exactly.
So the atmosphere can cool, and we can stabilize as much as possible before that next wave comes in. But you can already see, just to the north of Nashville and far to the east of Paducah, there is a line of storms, quite a bit of lightning and downpours, and those could do the same thing that this storm just did.
You know, one of the things, Rick, in the northern part of our area, that storm kind of had a little bit of a cheat mode on it in the fact that it was near what is a quasi-warm front. And so if you're kind of wondering what that means, if you have one of these, is the winds are going to be a little bit more east. And those winds being a little bit more east are important. All right, that concerns me a little bit more, Rick. Let's go back over to the rotation there.
Two areas.
That's concerning. So what you'll notice is let's rock backward and forward. Remember what we said, that the storm is in a fuzzy time frame. Which way is it going to go? So you can see these two areas of rotation here. Notice that they're a little bit diffuse. The brights next to the kind of darker are not that intense. Now let's move it forward 2 scans to the end of this, and you can see, let's go one more. You will notice that this heading into Crothersville is now more intense, and I am concerned about this area right here that is going to cross about 2 miles north of Austin along I-65. Rick, let's see if we've got any debris. That is great news. Also, if you could take me over to reflectivity briefly, I just want to make sure that we're looking under some precipitation falling. This is always important. One of the things that, when you look at this trying to determine if a tornado is occurring on radar, there are precursors and checks you have to look at prior. If you have one of those holes and it's not raining, it doesn't work. So these are important things as a meteorologist in a checklist to try to determine what's occurring. I think the next scan is going to be really critical. But look, if you're in Crothersville, tornado safe spot, let's not play around on this one. Downstairs, underneath something. I need you in the center part of your house and keep away from windows. It's logical. Glass, something flies through it, I don't want to be standing next to it. Middle of your house, if something flew, if a tree gets knocked down, I don't want my house damaged, but I'd rather the outside of my house damaged than me. And if I get in the middle part of my house, I'm using the house to buffer me. It's important. It's the way to be safe. There is a little area. Rick, what product do we have there right now?
That's the VIL, so a little hail core.
Okay, minor hail core. I want to see now, because we did get a radar update here. I'm curious if the velocity is updated since the last time.
Yep.
Man, that's right over Crothersville. Let's take a look and make sure, again, that we're not seeing any debris here. I'm really, really concerned right now. In Crothersville, Good news is I don't see debris right now on radar, but this is the danger time right now. This is what we call normalized rotation. What it basically does is it kind of gives us the ability to kind of smother all of that red and greens next to each other into one coherent product. And what this means, normally when you see green, we get into a more concerning time frame for tornadoes. If we see yellow, it's even more concerning. But that area rotation, looking Crothersville right now, you've got to be in your tornado safe spot. This could drop a tornado at any moment. 13 minutes left on this warning. You know, I even think we need to be considering downstream whether this is going to get extended. That rotation just looks solid on that storm right now near Crothersville. On one side, by the way, we have gates that are in the neighborhood of 74 miles an hour. On the other side, it's about this is about 50 miles an hour rotation. We saw closer to around 70 when I believe that touchdown occurred west-southwest of Salem. But in Crothersville right now, there's still about 50 to 60 mile an hour rotation. And so whether that's straight line wind or whether that's rotational with the ability to produce a tornado, I don't think your house cares or you just need to take it seriously at this point right now. I just want to show you what this did earlier, and we have video from Bradley Mills who sent this to me as the storm was north of Hardinsburg. If you're listening, give me your eyes a second here and look at the TV. This was as the storm was north of Hardinsburg. Now, it is impossible to say whether that actually contacted the ground because there's trees there. But you're probably saying, Mark, that looks like a wedge tornado. And I understand what you're saying, but what that wedge is the wall cloud. That is the lowering from the thunderstorm or the interface where this thunderstorm would then produce a tornado. So between that tree line and the ground, there could be a tornado, there might not be. I believe it did touch down, but you can very clearly see that is the storm that we're talking about that is near the Crothersville, Indiana area. Wide perspective shows still a lot of lightning. Louisville's about an hour to an hour and a half out before it gets into the area. Tornado warning remains in effect for the northern part of our area right now. And Rick, the Weather Service is going to have to make that decision soon because this is about to get into Jennings County. And right now, Jackson County has the tornado warning. Let me verify, make sure. It is only Jackson County, so they're going to have to make a call here shortly as that's about to breach the county line. Yeah, based on the uptick in the rotation, the velocity, my gut tells me that if you live in Jennings County, you'll probably end up going under tornado warning. That's just my 2 cents. Four Corners, love it. Hilltown, Bigger, Campbell, all under a severe thunderstorm warning, but do not be surprised to see a tornado warning issued for your area. We wish that the rotation that has stayed low will continue, but unfortunately, the past couple scans, we've seen just a little bit of an uptick. So now what you're looking at is the velocity. And now this is starting to move right over the I-65 corridor, just to the east of Crothersville, along County Road 800. Watch out. This storm means business. Just south of Uniontown, near Retreat, Crothersville, it will move north and east, maintain that speed at 35 miles per hour. We have 2 areas of rotation we're watching very carefully. So again, if you know anyone who plans on traveling between Uniontown and Crothersville right now, give them a call. Let them know it is not safe. You need to get off the road and find a sturdy building to get into. Your car is not a safe place when it comes to tornado. This tracks north and east. Lovett is the one county right now, or the one town rather, that we're keeping a very close eye on because it is in the path of the storm. It doesn't have the structure that it once did. It had that perfect little hook on the southern end. It's a little more sloppy, but it still has some really strong, ferocious winds inside of the storm, and that's why the tornado warning has continued. Even a pretty good hail core now showing up yet again, and when we see those hail pops, that can tell us that the storm perhaps may be strengthening a little bit. When we see the hail cores come down, a sign of weakening. So now that we still have a hail core and we have some rotation, we're going to keep an eye on this one potentially through the Jennings County area. Again, this is getting very close to moving out of the warned box. So any moment now, the Weather Service is going to have to make that call whether they want to continue with tornado warning or switch over to tornado possible tag. But I would say, just the way this night has gone so far, I wouldn't be surprised to see them go tornado warning. And by the way, some of the commentary from the Weather Service, because we chat with them really regularly, and I will say this in advancing the communication amongst meteorologists, we always refer to ourselves as a weather enterprise. The reason we do that is because we're not an individual that does this. We work with groups of meteorologists, but it allows all of us to bounce thoughts off one another, and chat has really been ultra valuable. Weather Service Indy said at 8:47, if the storm continues to look where it does now, there's no plans to put a tornado warning in effect for Jennings County. 1 minute later, they said, although as soon as I say that, the circulation has strengthened a bit. And that's kind of what Rick and I have been talking about here, as we have seen the intensity come up and come down on this storm. Just so you know, we don't want to keep your programming. I know some people are curious what's going on TV. Maybe you've tuned in for your program. I am not one to take that away from you. We don't want to take that choice from you. As long as there's a tornado warning, we will stay on air. The tornado warning goes through another 7 minutes. If they do not issue a tornado warning downstream for Jennings County, then what we will do is we will return you to programming. We will continue to allow the crawl. National Weather Service, as it stands right now, still has a severe thunderstorm warning until 9:30 for Jackson and Jennings, and you can kind of see that there. It does carry the term tornado possible, so it does position themselves if they determine they don't want to go with tornado warning, that they already have the severe thunderstorm with tornado possible tag out there. But if that's the route that we go, we will return you back to your programming. If indeed we got another tornado warning beyond that, we would come back into programming. Like I said, we don't have a desire to kind of keep you from whatever you want to watch. And I know that there's wrestling on tonight, so I think that I don't want someone to come down here and body slam me. But if we're looking right now at the rotation, it has crossed and breached the county line. It has now gone over into Jennings County. It is right along Indiana 250 right now. Weather Service has not made the call on where they're going to go, but they may have alluded to that by just putting out National Weather Service continues severe thunderstorm warning until 9:30. Rick, that area, and one positive here, is in a very rural part of Jennings County right now. So if this was to produce a quick spin up, I think that we're in a little bit more positioned well, and this is a more rural part of that county. I'm going to let you take care of this for a moment. I'm going to ask the Weather Service here what their plans are so that we can let our viewers know within the next couple of minutes on whether Jennings is going to go severe tor possible or tornado warning.
Gotcha. And just a reminder, we don't like to hear ourselves talk. We're not here just to consume your evening. Anytime we have a tornado warning or there's a threat to life and property, we cut in, and it doesn't matter if you're in Louisville. We take every single town and county in our area very seriously. So just because you live in Jennings County, you're saying, oh, they're going to forget about me. No, we're going to keep an eye on you. And the Weather Service, like Mark mentioned, is kind of positioning themselves. We've seen a couple times this evening, we've had a severe thunderstorm with a tornado possible tag, and then as the rotation came up, what they did is they issued a tornado warning smaller, but inside that box to kind of highlight the area where the rotation is, and that could possibly unfold here, and that's the direction they are going to move towards. So yes, tornado warning through 9, but just to tell you, to be clear, the storm system that we're watching is now out of that box, and it's in Jennings County, so that warning is almost useless. It's now really what's downstream in areas like Lovett. I think the actual core of this will stay north of Paris Crossing, but this will travel, cross over South 3, 7. This is going to be something that Jennings County is going to have to deal with here for the next hour or so.
And you know, one of the positives here, by the way, that I have that message out there, so we're waiting to hear back. One of the positives here as we look through this whole line, we still have areas of rotation that are occurring right now. These are miniature supercells near Paoli. There's a miniature supercell near Birdseye. Rick and I are going to need to watch these storms across our area during the overnight hours. And it's not necessarily because these will produce tornadoes or will not. But there is still favorable directional wind shear. And we know that when winds change direction with height, you can get these brief spin-ups that occur. And so these are things that we have to indeed watch. And Rick, you're watching and looking right now in Jennings County, and maybe a slight uptick here in that velocity. By the way, Weather Service here is answered the question. National Weather Service in Indy has just noted that they're going to revert back to severe with the tornado possible tag. They're saying circulation is weakened, which we are seeing. Jackson County tornado warning will be allowed to expire. All that said, Rick, you're looking at analysts right now, and we are seeing maybe a minor uptick in that rotation. Enough maybe to issue another tornado warning? I'm not sure. But it's still, it needs the severe thunderstorm with tornado possible tag. I mean, there's no question about that.
No question. And like Mark just mentioned, so I rocked back 2 scans. I'm going to go forward 2 scans. And if you keep an eye on this storm right in there where my mouth cursor is, what you notice is that those brighter colors have appeared yet again. And we're in sales mode on radar, which means we're getting updates every minute. And that is critical in showing you what is going on in the real time. But yes, we've seen a tiny increase now in the velocity. So that's kind of our concern. That's why we're very hesitant to say, yep, tornado threat's long gone. You can kind of just wipe your brow and say, let's continue on with the night. No, I mean, this is a scenario where the rotation goes down, but then comes up in a moment. So that's why just southwest of Lovett, and if you live in Lovett, be prepared for the potential of a tornado, and they have gone tornado possible, but they may have to come out and put a tornado warning inside that box.
You know, I think right now as it stands, since the atmosphere is cooling just a little bit, I actually support the going with severe thunderstorm with tornado possible tag. What we're looking at Jennings County on our radar is about 3,000 feet up or so. We were looking much, much closer to the surface interface when we were just west of Salem. There are going to be pulses here, and there's that new scan, and it looks like it's come down just a little bit. We've got another about 90 seconds here. I'm going to go over to the wall real quickly, and Rick, let's just do a quick track along the line, and what we will do is return you to programming right at 9, assuming that there's no new tornado warning issued. My sense right now, that's not going to happen. I don't think they're going to issue a new one. So we've got a severe thunderstorm with tornado possible for Jennings County. Remember, that doesn't mean I'm out of the woods. We're still saying you're going to see 60-mile-an-hour winds. Whether it's a EF0 tornado or 60-mile-an-hour winds, I mean, they both do damage. So use some caution and love it right now through around North Fernan. We'll go to the rest of the line so we can track the rest of the line as it continues its march towards the east. Not much lightning here, and that's behind the initial line near Bono, near the Mitchell area. That is in Lawrence County. We're going to go further south. Let's look on trajectory on what would come towards Louisville. So in Orange County, this thing looks like a little fella, right? No big deal. Not true. This is actually a supercell thunderstorm, as is this one near Ferdinand, and we need to watch these very, very closely. They have shown some signs of rotation. Right now, it's not enough to get me concerned, but we are watching it, and we've got thunderstorms right now as well as we move towards around just west of Fordsville that will continue their march towards the northeast. Ultimately, what gets into Louisville would be that area. Is Louisville going to see severe weather tonight? I can't say it's not impossible. I think that it is possible. Severe thunderstorm warning here remains in effect until 9:30. Tag tornado possible here for Jennings County. That's the only warning that we have in effect for our area right now. The tornado warning is going to be allowed to expire 10 seconds from now. We're going to regroup. Truthfully, Rick and I are actually going to eat something because you probably heard our stomach grumbling. But we're going to continue to watch these storms. Keep it right here on WDRB for continuing weather updates.